was once a device with a simple purpose: to watch television programs. It was a gathering point of a whole family, even the neighborhood back in the days when it was rare to own a TV. Nowadays, of course, pretty much everyone has a TV, and those who don't mostly choose not to rather than they can't afford it. The thing that changed greatly was the role of the TV, so even though many people still use it to watch television, a significant number of us use it almost exclusively to watch movies and shows on streaming platforms, for gaming, and sometimes even as a PC monitor. The TV has remained a center of home entertainment, but has evolved with the times and adapted to users' needs. Since the TV has not been an ugly box for a long time, modern materials and miniaturization of different parts, especially the backlight, have enabled it to also become a part of the decor. Then at some point, pretty much all manufacturers had an idea of implementing some decorative images that the TV can display that had given it a more active and personalized role in home decoration. About 3 years ago, Samsung decided to take this concept a step further with its The Frame model, which was designed in a way that, when mounted on the wall, actually looks like a painting in the frame, with interchangeable frames that came in different colors and designs and could, for instance, look like a wooden frame that would fit the rest of your room style. An innovative and well thought out concept, but as you might have seen in our review of that model, behind it was a fairly ordinary TV, an equivalent of Samsung's Q60 series, but with some software additions. Because of that, even though it was a good product for a specific kind of users, it did seem to lack a certain something that would make a wider audience say, "I don't want an ordinary TV, I want this." Samsung has been releasing new iterations of the frame every year since, but we had no contact with those until, almost 3 years later, at a recently held IFA fair in Berlin, we stumbled upon the new The Frame 2022 in Samsung's booth. Even at first glance, it was evident that the new model has that special something that the original was missing. We couldn't quite put our finger on it, could physically, but we could not figure out why it was special, yet it was clear that this was unlike any TV we've seen previously, and something we'd like to see in our homes. So let's dive in and see why that is so, and what does the new The Frame 2022 have to offer. Even though the design has not changed all that much, the new model is noticeably thinner than the one from 2019, and by a lot. 24.9mm instead of 42.5, which probably was to be expected given how much the technology has advanced since then. A so-called slim fit wall mount comes in the box and allows the TV to get super close to the wall thanks to the indents on the back of the unit, which really helps sell that painting on the wall vibe, especially with the thin profile. You also get a pair of plastic feet that serve as a stand, but it would be a real shame to use this TV that way. They'll do for a few days to keep your TV upright until you summon someone with a drill to mount it on the wall. All sides of this TV's frame are flat and meet at 90-degree angles and basically serve as a holder for the 4-piece removable cover frame that attaches magnetically. Those come in a variety of designs and fit together practically with no gap. The panel frame is not the thinnest compared to modern TVs, but this is probably intentional, as the overly thin frame would not look like a proper painting. Also, there are no markings on the front, as it would be weird to have a Rembrandt painting with a Samsung written underneath. Since the TV lays close to the wall and is pretty thin, Samsung has moved most of the internal electronics to an external OneConnect box, which connects to a TV via a single thin cable that you can easily hide inside the wall. The cable is long enough that you can stash the box away from the TV and create a proper illusion of a real painting without affecting the style of the room. OneConnect box also houses all the connectors, so on it you'll find 4 HDMIs, 2 USBs, a satellite and antenna connectors, LAN port, optical audio output, and a CI Plus slot, plus of course the invisible Wi-Fi 5 and Bluetooth 5.2. We loved the fact that one of the HDMI ports is version 2.1 and that the panel refreshes at 120Hz, so owners of this TV can enjoy a full set of features offered by higher-end Samsung QLED models. This is especially great for gaming, which admittedly is not something we'd associate with the frame, but why would someone who appreciates visual art also not be into games, right? 4K at 120Hz with variable refresh rate that is supported on any PC or console that supports it makes this TV a great option for gaming, with a very rich feature set that you can find in the game menu, some of which we don't see that often even on some gaming monitors. For example, there's a dynamic black equalizer option that raises the black level, but not all the time, only when an opponent is detected on the screen. You also get an HDR tone mapping for games in the form of two HDR10 Plus game modes, Basic, which offers a natural look, and Advanced, which augments the visuals for a more attractive display. Plus, there's also an HGAG mode according to HDR Gaming Interest Group specifications, so you can pick whatever you like. Surprisingly good gaming features, and kudos to Samsung for this. What makes this TV truly unique, not only compared to the 2019 The Frame, but to all the TVs we've seen so far, is the fact that it comes with a completely matte, non-reflexive panel. You may not notice a big difference in a dark room compared to a standard TV, but the more ambient light there is, the more unusual and almost surreal this panel will look. We are all used to seeing screen reflections in some amount, even on the best TVs, so when you see the new The Frame in a bright room with sun rays shining through a window, your brain will notice right away that something is odd. What you'll notice though is how good the screen with no reflections actually looks, especially if you're viewing an image of the painting from the gallery, as the oil on canvas actually looks like an oil on canvas, not on the TV screen, even when viewed close up. Truly impressive. Also, this kind of a screen is more pleasant to look at as the reflections inevitably strain your eyes trying to make out the image from reflections. It's also very easy to notice how much the image quality has improved over the 2019 model. While the old model was merely an average TV, the new one is on a much higher level, although still not a direct equivalent of any of the higher QLED models. Panel in this case is VA type, so the static contrast is quite high. We measured it at 4835:1, which is even more impressive when we take into account that made displays usually have lower contrast than their glossy equivalents due to the anti-reflexive layer. This static contrast is also the maximum that a TV can display within a single scene, since this model does not support local dimming and uses an edge LED backlight that is probably its weakest point. It gives the panel a bad uniformity with bright spots on a black background when viewed in a dark room, which are fortunately not visible with brighter content or in brighter room. On the plus side, maximum brightness that the frame can display ranges between 500 and 553 nits, depending on the picture mode. HDR is supported, but since there's no local dimming, you're not really getting a true HDR experience, though it is still somewhat better than on many non-true HDR models. Quantum dot filtering layer only adds to this, and subjectively this TV displays unexpectedly vivid colors for a matte screen, even very close to what we see from regular QLED models. It is a panel that achieves 10-bit color display with the use of FRC and is capable of covering about 83.3% of DCI-P3 gamut, about 10% less than what we see on better quantum dot TVs. Also, viewing angles are average for VA, so there will be some color shift and less contrast when you watch the screen at an angle of more than about 60 degrees. As for the color accuracy, the Frame 2022 offers a pretty impressive precision out of the box in movie and filmmaker modes, with delta E deviation of 2.2, which is commendable. Besides that, the filmmaker mode also looks subjectively good for an average viewer, which is not always the case with calibrated displays. In HDR though, accuracy is not as good. In fact, the best delta E deviation was measured in HDR movie mode with 9, which is pretty bad, though subjectively HDR filmmaker mode still looks the best, even quite good. What the Frame 2022 shares with Samsung's QLED models is image processing, and it is here in full capacity, including the use of AI to enhance the visuals. This feature adjusts the sharpness, contrast, color saturation, tone mapping, and other parameters depending on the specific scene that is being displayed. A so-called intelligent mode may not be everyone's cup of tea, but between it and filmmaker mode, both users who prefer a true-to-life display and those who like the eye candy will find a mode that will satisfy their needs. Motion processing, or MEMC, is also implemented with a full feature set, with two sliders that reduce judder and blur, a noise reduction feature that handles the artifacts that appear as a side effect of motion processing, and an LED clear motion that strobes the backlight in order to improve the panel response time for fast content like sports. As the panel refreshes at 120 Hz, all this works quite well, so the new The Frame offers a surprisingly good image quality and processing, especially compared to the previously tested model, and honestly it's much more than we have expected given its specific role. As for the sound, it is very decent and we expect no less from Samsung models, but it won't sweep you off your feet for two reasons. Firstly, the low frequency response, which extends down to only about 60 Hz and drops in volume below 150 Hz, so you get enough bass so that the TV does not sound thin, but not enough to impress more than some average mid-tier TV. Second reason is that even when turned up to 100% volume, the TV is not overly loud for listening in an average-sized room. We could even say that this is probably one of the quietest TVs we've tested recently. On the plus side, frequency balance is very good, so what the frame can reproduce is actually pleasant to listen to. Not exquisite, mind you, but fairly refined sounding for a TV. As with the picture, this TV offers some sound processing features, though not nearly as many. Intelligent mode will add some loudness and adapt the sound so that the content you're playing sounds subjectively better with the use of psychoacoustic tricks, though I did still prefer how the TV sounds without those in standard mode. Besides standard, there's also an amplify mode that adds some loudness but at the cost of some sound quality. Expert sound settings will also allow you to tweak the 7-band equalizer, turn on the automatic volume leveling, and activate Dolby Atmos processing. As for its smart features, the frame is based on the latest version of Tizen OS that we have seen on all the current Samsung display devices from QD OLED to the smart projector, but with the addition of the art section, which is much more than a standard ambient mode. In it, you will have access to pretty much all the classic paintings, as well as many modern ones, plus various video loops made for this purpose and other ways of turning your TV into a room decoration. A small caveat is that you get a selection of 66 works for free, a bit of everything, while the rest is available for purchase. The price is around $20 or €20, which we think is a bit steep for a digital reproduction, even if it is a professionally scanned high-resolution image, but I guess artists have to make a living, even those who have been deceased for a few hundred years. Most of these works actually belong to the world's most famous museums and galleries, so part of what you pay goes to them for licensing the works. Samsung does, however, give you an option of uploading images from your mobile phone, so there's nothing stopping you from downloading art you like from the internet and uploading it to the TV. We mentioned already how good the oil paintings look on the frame's mate screen, so your guests will probably not even notice that it's not actually a painting, unless you display Van Gogh's sunflowers, which in this case are not covered in tomato soup like the ones in the museum. So I guess art on the frame can be better than the original. The TV also features an ambient light sensor, so it adapts the screen brightness to the room light and the image it displays, so that the painting would look as natural as possible. This works quite well, and together with other features we've mentioned, is one of this model's strong points. As for the rest of the smart features, there's a wide selection of available apps with practically all the relevant video and audio streaming services, some basic games, and a few useful apps. The TV can also control smart home devices through SmartThings, and the integration with your mobile devices is great for projecting screen, images and videos on the big screen, and other useful things. The user interface is pretty responsive, as we are used to with Tizen, though we did run into sudden occasional freezes while moving through menus that would last for 5 to 6 seconds, which is something we've never seen on a Samsung TV, so hopefully it's a bug that can be fixed with a software update. The TV is controlled by a familiarly designed remote controller we've seen on previous models, this time in white with a thin compact format, and with quality keys which have short travel and are very responsive. There are not many keys on this remote, but everything you need is there. If anything, we would prefer a YouTube button instead of Amazon Video, but maybe you won't agree. Let us know in the comments what shortcuts get the most use on your remote. Samsung has decided to ditch the disposable batteries altogether this year, so the remote comes with an integrated rechargeable battery that can be topped up via USB-C on the bottom of the remote, but also via a solar cell on the back, and wirelessly with the use of radio waves, like for instance your home Wi-Fi. This is very interesting from a technical standpoint, but also quite practical and useful. All in all, the Frame 2022 is a very impressive device that combines home decor, gaming and a modern TV. Even though the TV itself is not the latest and greatest Samsung has to offer in terms of specs, it still does provide an above-average combination of image quality, image processing and sound, with an unique proposition of a screen with zero reflections that you'll likely not find on any other TV you can buy. Thanks to that uniqueness and really excellent gaming features, the Frame 2022 makes much more sense than the last model we've tested, and we can absolutely recommend it to anyone looking for something different and special for their home that happens to also be a good TV. As for the price, it ranges from around $550 or euro for the smaller 32-inch model, up to $20 or $2,200 for the 65-inch one we've tested, while the additional frames are usually around $50 to $60. That would be all for this review, but we would like to hear your thoughts on this TV, so please share them with us and our viewers in the comments below. We hope you have enjoyed this video enough to give us a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to our channel for more interesting tech content. You were watching Bench House, my name is Ivan, and I'll see you next time.